What is going on, everybody? How are y'all doing? Can you hear me? Is the audio clear? Good afternoon. Let's move these comments down a little bit. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me? Is the audio clear? Are you with me? Yes, yes, yes. Yay! Technology is not always our friend, but we did it. We did it today. Where's everybody logging in from? I saw a bunch of different locations. When I looked at the registration, we had representation from about 15 different states across the county, across the country. It looks like we got a lot of Florida people in the house. So we got Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Bradenton, Largo, St. Pete. If you're outside of Florida, let us know where you're representing. If you're outside of Florida, adjust that a little bit. Got Missouri, Georgia, Kentucky. Feel like Kentucky's my second home lately. Arizona, okay. Virginia said, I can hear you. You can't hear me. No, Virginia, I cannot hear you. That's one of the perks of StreamYard, is that you do not have to have your audio on and you do not have to have your video on. It's just me. It's just me. Awesome. Kentucky, Arizona, Bradenton. What's the best thing about Kentucky? If you've ever been to Kentucky, what's the best thing about Kentucky? I know what the answer is. You can say it out loud. Nobody wants to put it in chat? The best thing about Kentucky? All right, fair enough. Oh, Colleen said the land and the horse farms. There's Jason. That's what I was trying to get at, Jason. The Bourbon Trail. Oh, and then there it is. There's all the bourbons. Awesome. Awesome. One more tech check for everybody. The audio is good and the video is good. You can see me. Go ahead and let me know in the comments. Audio is good. Video is good. You can see me. Looks like yes, we can hear you clearly. Joyce has an icon spinning. Joyce, I'm not sure why that might be happening. Go ahead and leave and then come back in and see if that fixes it for you. I got a lot of other yeses. So awesome, awesome, awesome. We can see you. We can hear you. Cool, cool, cool. All right. I'm going to keep this chat on the screen throughout. So share ideas, interact with each other. If you have feedback or questions based on what we're talking about, go ahead and get into it. So I got a nice little workshop for you here. Let me adjust my let's see, we'll put it right there. And then if we go full screen, I can move it temporarily, but we'll put it right there. All right. Just a little background of why we're doing this. Obviously with Speak for MC, I contract with and work with a lot of different agencies across the country, a lot of agencies in Florida. But even though my company is a private company, I really am trying to give back as much as possible. I truly want to help people that help people. So when I have time and when I have the ability to do so, I say, all right, let's put a workshop together out there and see how many people register for it, see if there's a need right now. And this one was the most registered workshop that I've ever put out, a free community workshop I've ever put out. We had at the end of it about 189 people register. And then even right now, as we're watching, we have 91 people logged on and watching with us right now. And that's through Facebook, StreamYard, and 2 YouTube channels. So, to have 90 professionals saying, I'm going to take time out of my day to participate in a workshop like this, that says a lot about your desire to help people. So if you have a desire to help people, especially young people, the burden is on me to make sure I'm making that available for you. Not everything has to be about dollars, right? Not everything has to be about trying to sell something. And I just don't like selling in general. If you know me, you know that's the case. Now, if you do find some value in this and you want to kind of learn more and give back, if you see that QR code in the corner, that takes you right to my C.A.P.E Conversation series on Amazon, where if you want to get a book about engaging young people, I just published a new one. You can check it out, and I'll leave that up there. I'll leave that up there for you. So let's jump right into it. I received about 50 questions from you all when registering. So I'm going to try to weave these in as we go. Actually, first and foremost, go ahead in the chat for me and tell me why did you register for this workshop? Why take time out of, you already have a busy week. I know you already have a lot on your plate because you're in a helping profession. You know how that goes with helping professions. It's what your job description says and then everything else, right? So you have a full plate. You probably have unread emails. You probably have case notes. You probably have people to see and people to help. Tell me, why did you make time out of your day to participate in this particular workshop? Why participate and volunteer your time for building trust with you? Tell me in the comments. Let me make these a little bigger so I can see here. Let's see. We got to gain a better understanding of what motivates young people. Yep. To improve rapport and communication with youth. Yep. Look at this. Always interested in new ideas. Terry says a great topic. Yeah, I mean, the response was super positive on this topic. Christy says you can never have too many ideas to help relationships with youth. We got always interested in new ideas. Wow. Lifelong learner. Lifelong learner, never too much information when helping youth. This is why, like, people in helping professions are so awesome. You know what I mean? Like, what other profession would you say, I want to learn more to better help people voluntarily? Like, that's why I like just helping people. Your case manager, a workforce staff, you work in education, child welfare. Y'all are just different. And y'all are special for sure. Claudia says, Claudia wrote, hold on, because I work closely with children in the child welfare system and it frustrates me when I hit a roadblock and communicating with them. How do I bypass the I don't knows, especially in the situation they are in? Help with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 P's. Yes, I appreciate that real and authentic comment, Claudia. So let's address it. I'm going to go back and forth with various questions, so I make sure I answer as many of these as I can that you put in registration. The first one, and then when I ask this question, feel free in the chat to answer this question yourself based on your experience. So here's the first question. Let me go ahead and put this in the chat before we get started here, so you can see it. This I don't know who this was submitted by, but it was as part of the registration. This is the first question here. So give me your feedback on this one. It says, are there any times that the techniques don't work? If yes, what then? So in your experience helping people, let's say you get a real good training, you get a real good communication tool to help inspire and motivate people. Are there times when, even though you did it perfectly, it did not work? Tell me in the chat on this first question, because I thought this was a good question somebody submitted. Are there times when the techniques don't work? What, in your experience, are there times where you did everything right, yet the young person decided to make a decision that was wrong or not helpful, or did not better themselves? Are there times when the techniques don't work? What are your thoughts on that question? Tell me in the chat. Or maybe, you know, does it always work for you? No matter what, is every day a good day? I hope that that's the case, but I imagine that's not so much. Let's see what we got here. Tiffany says all the time, pivot and try a new skill. Yep. Kathy says yes, when the youth is so deep in an event, they couldn't think or process what's being said. Yep. Stephanie, the song "I Did It My Way" pops in my head. Frank Sinatra. Yeah, we do like to do it our way. Anna says yes many times, but the more you try, the better it gets. Kay says when people are in high stress or emotional situations, their ability to listen and focus is diminished a lot. Yeah, so I agree with everyone on there. Are there any times the techniques don't work? Absolutely, 100%. Here is the thing I had to learn very early on when working with youth, and this was about 15 years ago. And this is when I was working in probation. I remember the first time I had a young man who got arrested, violated his probation. And I found out, and I was like, what is going on here? This doesn't make sense. And I went straight to the probation office to talk to the probation officer. And I was like, hey, you know, my young man, he got arrested. We got to do something about it. What happened? What do you think is going on? Like, I was so hyped up. And then there were like 3 or 4 probation officers in the office at that time. And they looked at me and they go, man, you must be new. And they kind of chuckled. And even though I felt a certain way when they said it, it was also a reminder that we can't fix people. You can't make people change. If you could, then the world would be a very different place. So, you know, are there times the techniques don't work? Absolutely. That's why when you're working in a helping profession, obviously you have outcomes that you have to follow and outcomes you have to meet in order to continue your funding, whether that be through the state or federal or whoever's funding you. Let leadership, let your directors, let them focus on that. You, as the person directly helping someone, need to really be focusing on your approach. And when you communicate and the techniques that you use, you are doing your best to use the ones that you think will increase the chance that this person will change. Not the techniques that you believe will make this person change, but the techniques that you believe will inspire them to consider a perspective other than their own. You don't judge yourself based on the choice someone else makes. You judge yourself based on the choices you made and your intention behind them. And I know that's easier said than done, but the truth is you can do everything right and a young person still choose to make the wrong decision. In fact, you can do everything wrong and that young person still overcome and decide to make the right decision. Your role as a helping person is to say, does my approach that I'm taking, does the technique I'm deciding to use in this particular situation, does it increase the likelihood that this person will consider change? And if it does, there is peace in that, regardless of the final decision that they ultimately make. And again, this is not to say that outcomes don't matter, because if you don't have strong outcomes, you won't have a funding. But your role when you're in that room with that person is not to think about how strong is your funding stream. It's to think about, is the approach I'm taking going to influence positive change? Does it increase the likelihood that it will? And again, if that's the mindset, more often than not, you will. And then there's peace in it when you don't, because they ultimately get to choose what direction they go in. And just like you could have made any choice today to not be here in this workshop. If you chose to not be here, is that a reflection of me? I mean, perhaps I didn't influence it as much as I wanted, but in the end, you get to decide. I can't control that, right? So we got to really focus on what we can control when we're helping others and when we're trying to influence. Just a little background on me, if you don't know, I started my work as a group home worker over in St. Pete. That was girls on one side, boys on the other, that one desk in the middle. That was probably the hardest job I've ever had. You learn a lot about influence and motivation and trauma and trying to help young people in a situation like that. Then I was a director of a YMCA, a case manager for a juvenile justice program, area manager for a Department of Labor program. then transition director for a transition program where we served 145 of the most at-risk young people every single day, and then founder of Speak for MC, where I finally started my own company. Pop quiz for the chat. We know what Speak for MC stands for. If you don't, that's more of a reflection on me and my ability to brand, probably, than it is of you. But does anybody know what Speak for MC stands for? Any guesses? Maybe some people are trying to Google it in real time. What does Speak for MC stand for? My country. Speak for my country. Hey, that's kind of okay. Maybe I'll change it to my country. Speak for my country. No, it is not that is not the one. Miss Reese said my country. Nobody else? We got about 100 people on here. No one knows. Okay, that is a real moment for me to get better at my branding. It's called Speak for Motivating Change. And motivation is good, but I will say too, motivation is more short-lived. What you're really trying to do is inspire new ideas. You're trying to inspire new perspectives. Yes, Miss Reese, thank you for trying to get a microphone check there. But again, it's a reflection on me, not you. Yes, Claudia. Yes, now we do know. I will ask next time too. So let's keep it moving. The other thing that I now do quite a bit when I do keynotes, workshops, is we talk about C.A.P.E conversations. And what C.A.P.E conversations, it was inspired by my little girl when we were watching Doctor Strange. She said, "Why does he have a cape?" And I said, "Because some heroes have capes, right?" And she's like, "But Daddy, where's yours?" And it was like this cool little emotional moment. But it really got me thinking, what does it mean to put your cape on in the workplace? What does it mean to be a hero for someone else? And what I learned very quickly is the answer is not the same for every single person. And when you're in a helping profession, you really shouldn't have a one-size-fits-all approach. You should have an approach that is situational to meet the person where they're at, especially if it's a young person. So now when I talk about C.A.P.E conversations, the C, the A, the P, and the E change based off of the group I'm speaking with. So I got a C, an A, and a P, and an E for you today. We're going to break it down and see where we land. But before I do that, just real pop quiz, I am interested. What do you think in the role that you have, and please put in the chat for me, what do you think in the role that you have is the most important characteristic or quality to possess for someone in your profession? What do you think is like the go-to if you're working in your field? What characteristic or quality do you have to be successful? What do you think that is? Before I go through what I got 4 here for you, what do you think it is? Miss Reese says customer service. Tiffany says empathy. Yep. Caring. Integrity. Ooh, David. Integrity is a big one. Integrity is a big one. Be an attentive listener. Yeah. Easier said than done. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Non-judgmental listening. 100%. We got a couple here. Consistency, attention, patience, empathy. Timothy said ran. Timothy might have just ran off. Is that what that is that what that means? Trustworthiness, active listening. These are all phenomenal. A heart to serve. Absolutely. I appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about what the C stands for right off the bat. It stands for change or compliance. When you're working with young people, change or compliance. And this is such an important distinction because both of these look very similar on the surface. And the analogy I always like to give is when you are speeding down the road. And this just happened to me yesterday again. Not to say I was speeding. Well, I guess I was. So I just put myself out there. So yesterday I just happened to be speeding. And when I was speeding down about a block ahead, there was that cop car parked in that little spot. Now, when you see a cop car parked in that little spot, what do you typically do? Tell me in the chat. What do you do when you see a cop car parked in that little spot in the corner? What do you do when you see that cop parked in that spot? Everyone always has their own strategy here. Take the foot off the gas. Matt is braking. Slow down. Everybody always has their little strategy. Hit the brakes. Okay, Maria. That's not going to draw attention. Yes. Hit the brakes. Okay, so in either case, you figure out a way to slow down. Kathy holds her breath. When you slowed down, were you changing as a person? Did your mind change when you slowed down or you braked? When you saw the cop and then you slowed down or brake, did your mind change? Did you change who you are at your core? What do you think? When you're speeding, you see the cop, you slow down. Did you at your core change? What do you think? William says, my life flashed before my eyes. Miss Murphy says, yes, you did. Okay. So I see a lot of yeses that you changed. So let me ask you this. If you think you changed in that moment and like 15 minutes passes because you never got pulled over, what do you normally do? In fact, everyone's seen a cop car before and slowed down when they see a cop car. Does that mean you've never sped again? I see a lot of no's. No. That's because you as a person did not change. Your belief system did not change. Your ideas towards speeding did not change. What actually happened was you were being compliant because of a potential consequence. And as soon as you no longer viewed that consequence as consequential, you went back to be behaving how you actually think and feel. All compliance is I will temporarily adjust my surface level behavior because there is an external factor that is requiring me to do so. But as soon as that external factor is no longer relevant, or I just don't view it as consequential anymore, I am going to change my surface level behavior back to better reflect who I am and what my core values are. So why am I talking about this as it relates to youth? It's because you, when you're in a helping profession, and myself as well, every day we have to make a choice. Am I going to take a communication technique or communicate in a way that more likely encourages change or compliance? Now, I'll tell you, sometimes you need both. Sometimes you start with compliance to get to change, or maybe there's a safety issue, like a young person is going to hurt another person or hurt themselves. In that moment, you might need immediate compliance to stop what is happening from happening. But compliance is always short term. Compliance is not sustainable because compliance is being dictated by a factor that I cannot control. And in the end, true change comes when I made a choice to behave in a way that reflects my core values and who I am. My mindset towards speeding has shifted. I don't slow down simply because I don't want a ticket. I slow down because I recognize, you know what? There might be kids in this neighborhood. And me as a parent and as a father, I would be devastated if someone hurt my child, if my child was hit by a car. So because of that, the way I view speeding has changed. And when I slow down, my behavior is a reflection of my core values. That is what change is. And that is sustainable over a long period of time because that's not dictated by someone else. It's dictated by me. So when you're interacting with young people, you are asking yourself consistently, is the approach I'm taking right now going to increase the probability that this person will consider change, or is it more likely to require compliance? And I'm not saying always choose one over the other. I'm just saying be honest and authentic with what your approach is more likely to encourage. Because we can't say we want change, but we're consistently just demanding a compliant response, right? Now, if you might start with compliance, you're required to be here because you're on probation. As an example. But then if you truly want them to evolve and grow over time, we need to shift the approach from you have to be here to tell me what you think the benefits are. What brought you here today? What's motivating you? What do you think can help you be successful? And you're trying to empower the person to move towards change. Change is effective over a long period of time. Compliance is always short term. And if the compliance is always as a result of a consequence, eventually that person is not going to perceive that consequence as consequential anymore. So you're going to have to keep raising it and raising it and raising it. If you do not believe me, then I would say, why are the prisons full? Why are people on probation? And a simpler response, why do people still speed, right? It's because compliance doesn't drive real change. It's just temporary until that person decides their mindset has shifted about the particular behavior. So ask yourself, am I encouraging change or am I encouraging compliance? And we're going to talk about quite a bit on the change side first. And let's talk about the E. Actually, before I go to the E, let me go to another question here in our chat. All right. Let me put, how do I... All right, here's a good one. All right. So here's a question I received at the beginning of the training. Let me go ahead and put this in the chat. It says, and again, this is for everybody. How do you break through the wall to build trust when the participant shows no interest? That's a really good question. How do you break through the wall to build trust when a participant shows no interest? So what do you do? I'm sure we've all had young people, participants, clients like that. What do you do when it looks like they're just not motivated? They don't care. They don't want to be there. Tell me what you do in that situation. Amber says, use a little humor. Yeah. Humor can go a long way in de-escalating, humanizing yourself, establishing connection. Yeah, if you can be funny is good. Let's see. Look for something nice to see. That's a good way. Affirm the person. Try to connect. Miss McDonald said, don't be offended, be consistent, and show up with low expectations. Yeah, the don't be offended is a big one because you really got to suspend your ego sometimes, you know, when connecting with young people. You got to realize it's not about me in this moment. It's about them for sure. Keep showing up and trying to build connection, build trust. Keep showing you care. Yeah, absolutely. So the truth is too, if you hear a young person, someone say they're just not motivated, that is almost rarely not the case. The very fact that young person is with you in that moment disproves the point that they don't have motivation. They were motivated to get there. Now you might say, well, the thing that motivated them is not a good motivator, or even you could say they were made to be their mom made them be there, but they were still motivated. If we simplify it even more, if they woke up that morning, they were motivated to get out of bed. If they brushed their teeth, they were motivated to brush their teeth. So this concept that they're not motivated is not the case. The idea is, okay, how do we draw out some motivations or leverage the motivation they do have towards this goal that could help them? How do we leverage that? How do we maximize the motivation that is there and get it pointed towards the direction we want to go? We'll actually talk a little bit about that, but some of the answers you said are good. build trust, build connection. If the person is unmotivated or they're perceiving that they don't have an interest, the very first thing is we got to find out, well, what are their interests? We got to establish trust, connection, and rapport. If we try to jump ahead of them and try to convince them how much this thing should matter to them without first trying to learn from their perspective how they view it, we're going to be getting ahead of them and really creating more work for ourselves than there was in the first place. So the very first part, it really is investing on the front end for like you're planting trees for shade you might not see. You're investing in things that are not necessarily outcome driven and tangible. In other words, there's not really a report that your leadership could pull to say, how well are you establishing connection with a young person? You know what I mean? They could point to other outcomes, like are they engaged with services? You know, is it recidivism? All these things. But really, when you're in there with them in that moment, there's no one measuring how much connection you're having. It's really it's you understanding I'm taking an approach that I think is building trust here and being patient with that approach. And then Miss McDonald says it starts with small wins, which is a really good point as well. So let's talk about the A here. The A in the C.A.P.E today stands for avoiding power struggles. Allow me to ask you this question here. Who wins a power struggle? Let's say it's you and a young person. Whether you're a parent, think you and your child, or if you're a worker, it's you and the individual you're trying to help, your participant, your client. You get in a power struggle with them. Who most likely wins that? Who's more likely to win that power struggle? What do you think? Who wins a power struggle with young people? What do you think? Miss Stephanie says, nobody. Nobody. Kathy says, nobody. Crystal, they do. It can feel like that. Laura says they usually do. One of my favorite lyrics, and I've been saying this thing for like 10 years, is Jay-Z when he said, if you argue with a fool from a distance, you can't tell who is who. If you argue with a child from a distance, it looks like two children arguing. In the end, no one really wins a power struggle. And the reason for that is if I make you do something that you did not want to do, that almost always creates an element of resentment. And I will tell you, the most patient person in the universe is a resentful person because they are waiting for their payback. Hurt people hurt people. So even on the surface, kind of like our cop analogy, the young person's behavior changed. If that was forced and made, they're just waiting for their get back. So it might look on the surface that you made them do something, but you've really just created another scenario for yourself that you're going to have to address later. On the flip side of that is, let's say you try to make them do something and then you just give up. And you're like, you know what? Do whatever you want to do. I have 2 kids. Let's say my children don't want to go to bed at night. And then eventually I'm like, you know what? I'm tired. I don't care. Stay up as late as you want to stay. What does that then teach my children? What do you think that then instills in my children? That I finally just said, you know what? Whatever. Or you're working with a young person and you're like, you know what? Do whatever you want to do. I don't care. I'm done trying to convince you. What do you think that reinforces to a young person? What do you think? Yep. Shannon hit the nail on the head there. If I resist long enough, I'll get my way. I just got to wait them out. And maybe I just got to escalate things, right? So, okay, if just yelling a little bit in public, if that's not working anymore, maybe next time I got to throw myself on the ground. Oh, and if that doesn't work, maybe I got to hit something, right? Because you already taught me that if I push long enough, I'm going to be able to get what I need to get. So in either case of these power struggles, if I force you to do something, you're going to be resentful to get your payback. If I just say, throw up my hands and give up and say, do whatever you want to do, it's going to be hard for me to move towards change in other situations. And I want to say, by the way, this is not unique to young people. This is to adults as well. I have been in power struggles with adults where I thought, all right, I finally won. And you just don't. It eventually comes back around to you over and over, and you're just stuck in this cycle. So one of the best tips I can give is we got to really avoid power struggles. So how are some ways we can do that? One is stay calm and neutral. Now, there is an error on my slide here because I say don't take it personal. I am frustrated. I'm taking it personal that I wrote that. Me telling you not to take something personal when someone either insults you or offends you or behaves in a way that conflicts with your core values, that is a very high bar to set, and it's not fair. I'm not saying don't take it personal. I'm saying don't keep it personal. After you feel what you feel, after that, try to think beyond your initial reaction. Think beyond your emotional reaction. I'll give you just two quick examples. I remember working with a young person, and I walked in the office, and he was screaming with his career coach. They were both going back and forth. The career coach was like, you're not going to disrespect me. The young person was like, I'm going to do what I want to do, right? Just cursing. I asked the young person to come into my office, and he sits down, he crosses his arms, and he curses at me. He says, I don't give a blank about what you're going to say. Call whoever you want to call. I'm never coming back anyways, right? I took a deep breath and I asked myself, am I trying to encourage change in this moment, or am I trying to encourage compliance? I decided to take a change approach. So what I did is say, you know what? For you to be this upset and you're still man enough to have a conversation with me, that says a lot about how far you've come. And I appreciate that. Seconds later, his arms uncross. He looks me in the eye and he says, I appreciate it. Now we can have a conversation about what's actually happening. In that moment, I took a deep breath, I stayed calm, and I essentially said, I'm not going on this power journey with you, this power struggle journey. I'm more interested in change. Another example that just happened recently is I was driving and I cut somebody off in a way that I've never cut somebody off this bad before. It was a big truck. I pulled my car out front. I mean, they had to slam on the brakes. It was embarrassing how bad my driving was in this scenario. So then what happens almost immediately after you cut somebody off that bad, or you like do something silly when you're driving? Where do you think I ended up seeing them very shortly after? Anybody want to take a guess? Just a few minutes later, where I get to see this gentleman in this truck right after cutting him off. Where do you think I met him at next? Where was he waiting for me? Yes, Jason, right at the light. So I'm at the light first. I see him coming up. He has his window down. He's kind of like halfway at the window. He pulls up next to me. He has the most angry look on his face, like a pure road rage incident, right? Like he's about to just give me everything, every trauma he's ever experienced in his life. He's about to pour out onto me in this moment, right? So I rolled my window down too. I looked him in the eye and I said, hey, I'm sorry. That was my bad. I shouldn't have cut you off. Immediately, his face changes and he goes, oh, it's all good, man. Have a good day. And we moved on. In that moment, again, I chose not to go on that power struggle journey. I decided not to go with you. Now, you can call what you want to call or say what you want to say as well. You know, that's being soft or you still can't let people disrespect you. In that moment, I decided to make a decision that says I'm not going on this journey of power struggles. And we got to make that decision for ourselves. But empathy takes two to tango and one to take the lead. We get a chance every day to try to take the lead in that way, especially in a helping profession. And then the other thing we can do that's so important is ask, don't assume. Ask questions, clarifying questions to try to understand that person's perspective. When we hear problems, our brain automatically goes to a solution, and that solution is probably one that worked for us. And as soon as we get to that place, we've stopped listening. And when we stop listening, we begin to miss things that are right in front of our face. We start from a conclusion that we already think is true, and then we work backwards from there. And this is why assumptions happen. This is why prejudice happens. This is why stereotypes happen. It's because we quickly assume we already know who this person is based off limited information. Our role in a helping profession, no longer how long you've been doing it. And I know some folks, if you've been working in the field a long time, you look at someone's goal plan, or you hear about the barriers, and immediately you're like, I know what to do. We have to stop ourselves from that and take a step back and ask questions. Because the reality is, especially young people, each person is the main character in their own movie. Even if their story is not unique to you, it is 100% unique to them. So we can't jump in, assume. We got to ask questions and learn. And doing those things can help you avoid power struggles. And social media is a good example of this all the time. You should see some of the negative comments I get on some of my posts. I essentially say, hey, that's a strong reaction you had. What specifically influenced that? Or based on what I said, what's causing you to disagree? And just ask questions and don't assume. Almost always it de-escalates the situation and helps avoid power struggles. All right, let's talk about what the P stands for, because we are moving with time. Goodness gracious. The P stands for pick one. And what am I talking about when I say pick one? Well, allow me to explain. I am talking about of these four. Pick one. When you're communicating with this young person, you have to decide, am I going to give sympathy, emotional empathy, cognitive empathy, or compassion? Or am I going to give a combination of all four? In the chat, tell me, out of these four, which of these four do you find yourself demonstrating the most in the work that you do? So you meet a young person, let's say for the first time. Are you working hard to be sympathetic? Are you demonstrating some sort of empathy, emotional versus cognitive? Or are you right away saying, all right, I need to give some compassion to show this person I'm willing to help them? Out of these four, what do you find yourself doing more often than not? William says cognitive empathy. Tiffany says emotional. Veronica says cognitive empathy. Oh, we got a lot of cognitive empathy, huh? Jason says cognitive empathy. What is the difference then between cognitive and emotional empathy? What is the difference between those two? What's the difference? Maria says compassion. Anna says compassion, emotional, and empathy. Yeah, so my question might have been somewhat of a trick question. Which of these four we use is largely influenced based off of what our goal is and what the need is with this particular young person. A young person isn't always in every situation going to want you to ask them open-ended questions to start with, right? That's just, think about you. Sometimes if you're in a relationship and you call your partner to vent, I'm just so frustrated right now with my boss at work. Oh, it's bothering me so much. And then your partner's first thing is, well, what do you think you need to do to have a stronger relationship with your boss? Sometimes you're going to be like, I don't know. I don't got time for this. Bye. I'll call you later. And you hang up the phone, right? Because in that moment, you're like, I don't want you to ask me questions and try to understand my perspective in that way. I just want you to listen. I might just want you to sympathize with me and say, well, that sucks, right? So the answer really here is, well, what am I trying to accomplish and what's my goal? So let's just do a little really quick run through on these four. The first one is sympathy. Sympathy is all about acknowledging suffering. Social media is a great example of this. Or the chat right now. If somebody put a message in the chat and then you put like the care button, that would be sympathy. Sympathy is simply acknowledging suffering, acknowledging what someone's going through, telling them, oh, okay, that sucks. That must be hard. I can't imagine what that's like, right? Sympathy is good sometimes if you don't have the emotional energy to give anything else, which is a very real thing sometimes, or that's all the person wants. Maybe they just want you to listen to them and say, all right, that was tough, and move on, and they just wanted to vent. But the thing about sympathy is sympathy will not change anything when it relates to a mind, persuasion, and ideas. Sympathy does not result in persuasion. So if your goal is to change a mind, simply sympathizing with what they're going through will not move the needle. But if you just want to acknowledge suffering and you feel they'll appreciate that, then sympathy can do that. The next two parts are emotional empathy and cognitive empathy. These are very different, even though they sound the same. So let me break these down real quick. Emotional empathy is like when someone says they're an empath, right? Does anyone here, when they see a tragedy happen or they're talking to a friend or a colleague about something horrible they went through, start to take on what they're feeling themselves? Like you almost feel like you're going through it with them. Like you almost feel a little stressed for them, right? That is emotional empathy. You are sitting with them in their experience. You are essentially feeling what they feel. Emotional empathy is very powerful for connection, establishing trust and rapport. If I feel you truly get me on an emotional level, I'm going to trust you. And if I trust you, I'm more likely to hear you. So emotional empathy is when you're feeling what they feel. Cognitive empathy actually has very little to do with emotions. Cognitive empathy means you truly are curious about how they see the world. You are genuinely interested in their lens and what motivated them to believe the choice they made or to think the way they think was the best course of action. And notice I said you're truly curious. Like you are really interested in finding out how they see the world. Whereas emotional empathy is powerful for a connection, cognitive empathy is powerful for understanding. And if you can understand someone, you now have a better opportunity to influence or persuade or introduce new ideas. So if you want connection, emotional empathy is the path. If you want to persuade or change and work towards solutions, cognitive empathy is the path. And this is backed with plenty of evidence-based studies. And then there's compassion. And the main difference with compassion is compassion almost always comes with a compassionate action. Like you're doing something about it, right? So you hear somebody is going through, food insecurity. So you say, you know what? Get in the car. We're going to the food bank ourselves, right? Or you see someone is struggling with housing. So you're like, you know what? You and me, we're going to go find you somewhere to sleep tonight. Compassion is all about taking action. If you are in a situation where you want to establish rapport quickly, compassion is almost like the strongest way to microwave it. If you can respond to an immediate need, that right away can help build trust. So sympathy is acknowledging suffering. It's okay to show people, hey, this really sucks, but it's not going to result in change. Emotional empathy is powerful for connection and establishing rapport, but it's not necessarily going to change minds, but it is going to establish connection. Cognitive empathy is very powerful for understanding and potentially changing a mind. And compassion is when you're responding to those needs in real time, and that builds respect with that person. So I'm not here to tell you that one should always be used. That is you as a helping profession to decide in the here and the now what makes the most sense for them and then what you can do. I'm just saying be authentic and intentional about which one you're choosing. Don't just guess or say, try to really be a thinker and say, what does this person need? And what is the goal that I'm trying to accomplish? It really is about picking one. And the E in the C.A.P.E today, as we near the end, is, of course, the one that I think we should pick most often, and that is empathy. There are plenty of studies to show that change, when it comes to changing minds and persuasion, simply changing mind and persuasion, meaning someone's beliefs have shifted, it cannot happen without a foundation of empathy. It just can't. If your goal is to help someone think differently and consider new ideas, if you are not having empathy as part of your communication technique, the likelihood of that happening is just extremely low. Again, and plenty of evidence-based strategies that back this up. So as we reviewed, your main goal is deciding, all right, does cognitive empathy matter the most here, or does emotional empathy help me better get there? Two quick things with cognitive empathy: it requires you to suspend your ego. So what that means is, can you treat someone like they're the expert when you feel you are? And think about this with young people. A young person does something that's like a knucklehead decision. And it's a decision that you tell yourself, I can't even believe they would do this. Can you put that aside to treat them like they are the expert in that situation? Can you do it? That is cognitive empathy. Because in the end, cognitive empathy does not care about your perspective. It is prioritizing someone else's. And it's hard, depending on the situation. If someone behaves in a way that completely conflicts with your morality or your values, I'm not saying it's easy to do it. If you don't believe me, look at the world, look at the society we're in today. People every single day when communicating with other people choose to not be empathetic because of what the topic means to them and how it triggers them and how it conflicts with their identity or what they feel. People take an active choice every single day. I'm not going to be empathetic because for me, it is too hard because I don't like what that person is saying. To each its own. My point is if your goal is change, if you care enough about the direction you're going that you want to see more of it, it has to start with the person's perspective, the mind you're attempting to change. It just does. And then the other part is emotional empathy. That just requires you to put your feelings aside to prioritize somebody else's. It's 4:45 on a Friday. You're exhausted. You're frustrated. You want to go vent to somebody. In that moment, can you choose, you know what, I'm going to put that aside to be there for somebody else and hear them? I want to really put the caveat there. I am not saying do this all the time. If you are always pouring into other people, you will have nothing left for yourself and you will be burnt out. That is just an unrealistic expectation. What I'm saying is if that in that moment your goal is change, it has to start with one of these two. It just does. Just real quick, some pros and cons of empathy. We talked about this a little bit. Cognitive empathy is all about persuasion and new ideas. The cons of it, it could feel too clinical and too detached. It can feel like you're trying to be a therapist with the person, especially if they don't want to be in that type of deep thinking situation. And then it could feel manipulative. If you ever go try to buy something, sometimes our salespeople are using a version of empathy. They're it's kind of like dark empathy or manipulative empathy, where I'm trying to understand so I could get you to buy something or do what I want. Whereas that's not, it's a version of empathy, but it's not like your intentions are not for the betterment of that person. It's in the betterment of yourself, right? So you got to be on the alert for that. Sometimes people use these things for the wrong reason. And then the emotional empathy, obviously we talked about, it strengthens rapport and human connection, but it can definitely lead to emotional fatigue and burnout if you're constantly giving it to other people. So you got to ask yourself, is this something emotionally I can add more to my cup without other parts of my life overflowing? And then really being honest with yourself on that. And then the foundation of all empathy is being able to active listen and ask good, open-ended open-ended questions. And then just one tip on active listening real quick. The key I can give you for active listening is don't just ask open-ended questions. Find questions that you truly care about the answer. Because if you truly care about the answer to your question, you're going to automatically lock into the answer. And you're going to be able, it's going to be easier for you to active listen to them. But if you're just asking it because you think it's a good question or you think you should, no matter how good that question is, if you're not interested in the answer, your brain mid-question is going to shift to things that you are interested in. I mean, there's been about 100 people on here with me in this hour. There is no doubt that almost all of you, at some point during me talking, your brain went somewhere else. To what you're going to do after, what you're going to do this weekend, to the end of the school year, to your emails, to your phone. It's part of being human. So to help combat that, you have to ask questions that you're truly interested in the answer, and that'll help you stay focused. And Stephanie says, go back to the slide before that. I'm not sure which one you mean here, Stephanie. But what I can do as well, Stephanie, for everyone, I'll email this to you after. I'll create a cheat sheet for you on open-ended questions and active listening, so that you can have it as a reference to look at. All right, so our C.A.P.E today is all about, when I'm working with this young person, does my approach more likely encourage change, or does it demand compliance? Compliance is short-term, change is sustainable. Does my approach get me into a power struggle? And if I get into this power struggle, am I prepared for what that is going to lead to next? Or did I take an approach that helped avoid it? Then, when I'm picking my approach, is it rooted in sympathy? Is it rooted in emotional empathy, cognitive empathy, or am I saying I need to take a compassionate approach? And then finally, if my goal is change, true change, changing ideas, does the foundation of my communication, is it rooted in empathy? Because if it is not, I need to make a change in my technique in real time, because the only way to get to change is with a foundation of empathy. And that is our C.A.P.E today. We did it, people. I cannot believe. First and foremost, if you know anything about me, most of my stuff I do, I engage with people like in real time, like an audience talking back. So the fact that I just talked by myself for an hour is going to go a long way in those rumors that I like to hear myself talk. So not sure how I feel about that, but we have gotten to the end. So let's talk. Let's talk real quick. Questions, comments, concerns. Do you have a question that we did not get to that you would like to get to in our final minutes? Let me know what your thoughts are, and let's talk about it. I did get like 50 or 60 questions beforehand, and obviously with time, I hope the workshop addressed some of these for you, as opposed to having to answer each one specifically. But what final questions? And this is pretty cool. We had upwards of 100 people the entire time for a workshop that's all about helping people. We're planting seeds, people. We're having an impact on others, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. The fact that you chose to work in a helping profession already makes you a hero. It just does. You could have chose a bunch of other careers, and you chose one that said, I'm going to prioritize other people's needs above my own. And that's what a community is about. Like that's what gives me hope that we're going to be okay. That it truly does. That gives me faith that we're going to be able to, the future we're building for our kids is going to be a good one. So do not get discouraged. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep pursuing the goal of helping people, because the world needs it. If people stop doing that, that does create fear for me about the direction we are going. So stay connected. I am on all the social media platforms. If you talk about TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, all of them. Even though I do this for free, no charge, no sale, if you do want to support me, Following me on those platforms can go a long way. It's Curtis Camponi. I'll put my full name in the chat, and then Speak for MC. If you can find me on every social media except Pinterest. I don't do recipes. So you can find me everywhere else, though. You following the platforms, commenting, likes, all that stuff helps the algorithm and helps support me. And you know what? That also gives me an opportunity to do more things like this. And then I'll also put my email in the chat. If there was something I did not address that you hoped I would, and I failed in addressing it, go ahead and send me an email and let me address it then. And I would love to do that. Thank you, everybody, for the positive feedback. Love the content. We'll give you follow and reviews. Thank you, William. I appreciate that. Review is a cool way to show support. So thank you so much. I'll go ahead and put this back up for 1 second before we roll out. And then I do have a video on helping young people that I'm going to put as an outro to this here in a second. Thank you. Just followed your page. I appreciate that, Miss McDonald. Which one? Instagram, Facebook? Absolutely. Thank you as well. Claudia, you are welcome. And look at all those exclamation points. I appreciate you, Claudia, so much. Again, it's 101, and we still have 80 people here. That's pretty dope. Helping people are out there. Don't let anybody tell you different. There's a world of people that want to help other people, and you are the proof of that. All right. Let me show you my final video. If you're still around, it's only 2 minutes. Check it out. There is one question that you can ask when you're helping people. That is a game changer. So let's watch it together. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Keep influencing change. Keep helping others. And I'll do the same. And I'm sure our paths will cross soon. Bye, everybody.
If you work with children, young adults, or families, there's one question you should be asking every single time. What brought you here today? It's simple, but it's powerful. Whether you're in education, workforce development, reentry services, or any helping profession, too often we jump straight into the intake form, the checklist, the goal setting, the problem solving. Too often we want to get to work before understanding why we are even here. When someone shows up, guarded, unsure, or just tired, the real work doesn't start with a plan. Too often we assign someone's motivations to them based on why we think they should be there. But you're not them. So the question is, why do they think they should be there? What brought them there today? It starts with an open-ended question. Close-ended questions like, is this your first time here? Or, do you need help with your GED? They might give you answers, but they don't offer insight. They don't tell you if she's doing this for her kids. Maybe that he just got laid off. That they've been turned away from 3 other programs, but still found the courage to walk through your door. Maybe they're being forced to be there by a parent, a significant other, or law enforcement. Each person is the main character in their own movie. And even if their story is not unique to you, it is unique to them. Open-ended questions invite stories. They invite honesty. And most importantly, they invite connection. When you ask someone what brought them there, you're telling them that their story matters. You're showing them that you're willing to put down your script to understand theirs. You're creating space for trust, for dignity, for a conversation that can actually go somewhere. You don't need the perfect pitch. You don't need one of those 300,000 books on Amazon to tell you how to sell to someone. You just need a desire to truly understand what their movie is, what their story is. So the next time someone sits across from you, the next time someone walks in your center for the first time, the next time someone walks into your office and has never been there before, pause and ask, what brought you here today? Then listen, really listen. You might be the first person that'll help their story have a happy ending. So now it's on you. I have a question. What brought you to this video? Why did you watch this video? What brought you here today? Drop it in the comments, let me know, and I'll see you next time.